Hi, welcome to It's So Friday. I'm really excited. I'm so excited to be here today to talk about the Kona Color of the Year for 2019. This is our first It's So Friday for 2019, I think. Yes, the first It's So Friday for 2019. We have an exciting year planned out already, and this is just the great way to kick it off. So if you don't already know about Robert Kaufman's Kona Color of the Year program, first of all, where have you been? We've been doing this for like 3 years now, 4 years now. This is our 4th year. Every year we release a new limited edition color that runs only for that year. So if you love it, you better hoard it now while you still can, because when it's gone forever. The color this year is this beautiful, boisterous blue-green hue called Splash, not called Stash. But you're going to want to add Splash to your stash because it is so much fun. It comes in yardage, like this lovely chunk of Kona here, as well as charm squares and roll-ups, perfect for your pre-cut needs. Now today, we are going to be sharing the Splish Splash quilt made by Anita Grossman Solomon using her tip-top block. And you can see the quilt behind me here. Now, if this quilt doesn't make you want to start singing songs that say Splish Splash in them, I don't know what will. It works for me every single time. Now, if you're sitting here going, oh my gosh, I love Kona, I love Splash, what should I do? I just want some. You're in luck. We are going to be giving some away. And not just one lucky winner, but again, 2 lucky winners, because I feel like I started that a few episodes back and I can't back down now. So now every time I think I'm probably going to have 2 winners. I just decided that. But whoever wins will win a 3-yard cut of Kona Splash that I have right here in my hands, as well as 2 half stacks. Now these half stacks are called half stacks because they are 10-inch squares, like a 10 square, but they are half the number of pieces that you would normally receive. So there are 24 pieces in each one of these stacks, and what you'll notice about them is that they're arranged in a really beautiful rainbow hue. I'm doing not a great job doing that like Vanna White fan thing, but isn't that beautiful? And over here too, another great collection. And these 2 actually are the palettes. This is the Tuscan Skies, and this one is called Birds of Paradise. And these were the 2 palettes that Anita Grossman Solomon was inspired by when she designed the Splish Splash quilt. So once you take a look at these and then look at the quilt behind me, you can really see where she drew her inspiration from for this quilt. All right, so to win, I know you're all sitting here going, you said we could win, how do we win? Okay, to win, all you have to do is, during this live video, you need to post in our comments here on Facebook about which color, which Kona color, only Kona color is acceptable, you would pair with this Kona Color of the Year Splash. Now, if you have like 17 Kona colors that you would pair for it, it's only 1 entry per person. So you can put all 17 of those in your color collection, because my boss Kyle thought that it should only be 1 color that you pair with Splash, but I feel like you should pair like 1,000,000 colors with Splash. Like maybe 340, because we have 340 Kona colors, which is the most colors of any person and company on the market. Isn't that amazing? 340 colors. You would think there aren't even that many, but there are, and we have them, and you could check it out. Anyway, let's go back to making this quilt. First things first, you're going to want to download the Splish Splash pattern from the Robert Kaufman website. You can get there from the link in this post. It's great. You'll know you have the right pattern because it looks just like this. It says Splish Splash at the top. It tells you that it's intermediate, but after you see this video, you're going to know that it's easy enough for a beginner. And if you get nervous, I'll be here to help you out via this video forever. Okay. Now, some additional resources that you're going to need. That wasn't planned. You're going to need you're going to need a tape gun. Oh my, that really gave me a fright. Okay. Sorry guys, you're going to need a tape gun. A tape gun. Trust me on this one. I'm also using spray starch. And one of the things that Anita does with all of her fabrics. And so basically, I'm going to give you this lesson, but I'm going to constantly be referencing Anita Grossman Solomon. If you don't already know about Anita Grossman Solomon, you are missing out because she is amazing, and the way her brain works is incredible. And every time she teaches a class or or she talks me through a quilt, I learn something from her that I never would have thought of otherwise. And you're going to come away from this episode exactly the same. But one of the things Anita does with her fabric is she is a firm believer in pre-washing all of her fabric, and she also liquid starches all of her fabric. Now, I didn't bring any supplies to liquid starch because I'm not that prepared, but I did bring spray starch, so we can talk about spray starching. I can tell you how Anita liquid starches, and we'll show you exactly what changes that makes to your fabric. So we're just going to start right in with that. Let me move these pre-cuts so they're out of your way. Okay, now just pulling from a charm so you can kind of get the feel for this. A typical Kona cotton, it has a nice hand, but it does have kind of a flow. So if you hold it up, you can see how it's moving. Now with liquid starch, you shake the bottle and you spray the fabric. Normally you would do this like on your ironing board, but that's okay. Okay, now you are just gonna iron it with a hot iron. Dry, no steam, but make sure your iron is on and hot, because if your iron isn't already on and already hot, it will leave little flakes, like little white speckly flakes, and that's not really what you want. When you hit it with your iron, make sure that you are not pushing, just make sure that you are pressing, and what will happen is your fabric will come out of it much more. I didn't get it all the way, but you can kind of tell I didn't get the edges, but your fabric will come out pretty stiff. So when you compare a non-starch piece of fabric with a starch piece of fabric, this was working earlier when I starched it better. Let me starch it again the right way. All right, hitting it with the hot iron. And it works better again if you liquid starch too, but you can't really feel the difference. Well, you can't feel the difference because this is a video, but if you were to be holding this fabric, you can feel the difference. It really stands up on its own, whereas this one like doesn't really, it's hard to tell. Trust me, this one is much thicker and standing up better on its own than this one is, which is more floofy.
We have a question.
Kyle has a question.
Steam or no steam?
The question is whether you should use steam when you are setting starch, and the answer is no steam. So just make sure you hit it with an iron that is already hot, no steam, just dry, let it sizzle. And what'll happen is the fabric will actually shrink up just a little bit. So Anita really likes starching all of her fabrics ahead of time because it reduces any shifting and shrinking later on, which makes for more precise blocks. She also described it to me as enjoying the feel of sewing with something that's almost more like a playing card consistency rather than a loose fabric, which is a little more flimsy and harder to control. So you definitely have more control over something that's been starched. If you are going to do this at home, she was saying with liquid starch, you can buy liquid starch at any grocery store, and you are going to want to dilute it about 50% water to 50%, half water, half starch, 50-50. Yes, and you're going to put it in a little baggie, like a gallon-sized Ziploc baggie, and just put your entire 10 squares in the baggie with the liquid starch. And then, this one was really, you put it in the refrigerator, and through osmosis, the starch goes into all the fabrics in your 10 squares. So you kind of want to squeeze it around, zip it shut, get all the extra air out, and then put it in the fridge for a few hours or overnight. And then when you take it out the next day, you can look through it, and the starch should be evenly absorbed through all the fabrics. And then all you do is you just take them over to your ironing board and you just iron them. And you just kind of do the stack iron, next one iron, next one iron. And she describes it like Princess and the Pea. You just build up that little bed of mattresses, but it's just your stack of fat quarters of 10 squares. Also, if you open your bag and it's not quite moist enough, you can add in some more of the liquid starch water stuff. And if it's too moist, add in more fabric. She says once you've done it like once or twice, you'll get the feel for how you like your fabric to feel when you're starching. But especially when you're working with this kind of pre-cut, she loves it because then all of the shrinking has already happened ahead of time. But she also says that this is a personal preference. If you don't like starching, you don't have to starch. You just might need to be a little more careful when you go to your steps. Okay, so first things first, after you go through the pattern, you'll get to the page with this template on it. Now, when you get to this page, you're going to want to make sure that this is printed to scale, and this should be 3 1/4 inches. If you would rather, you can use a piece of template plastic to get your 3 1/4 inch square. But here's the neat trick that Anita taught me. And we're going to go to a close-up camera, and we're going to bring our our packing tape with us. Okay. Anita suggested that I print this on a piece of fluorescent paper so that it's easier for you all to see. So you can see I've just taken the exact pattern piece, but I've put it on fluorescent paper. Now she says to go ahead and just use packing tape to reinforce this template on your paper. I have never even considered this, but I'm often printing out paper templates and getting frustrated at how flimsy they are. They tend to bend, or you can't really mark the sides of them because, you know, they're just a single piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. But this reinforces it enough where now you have a thick piece of paper with a template that's a lot easier to reuse. Then all you have to do is take some scissors, not your fabric scissors, and cut around the lines. Now Anita has already done this for me because she is magical. And so this is just this square reinforced with the tape, and you can see it's shiny, and then cut out. Okay, now the next step that you'll need to do in this pattern is to take your 10-inch square, and we're going to mark corner to corner in a big X. Now, if you are using a dark fabric, it works super well to have a chalk pencil because that's going to show up so much better than an erasable pen will. So I don't actually have a chalk pencil on me because I forgot it at home. But Anita drew this all out so that we could take a look and really see it clearly. Now, the first thing I said to Anita when she was talking to me about this was, well, Anita, why can't I just take my 3 1/4 inch square and before I cut anything, draw all the way around like this to mark my lines? And she told me, no, because it doesn't turn out accurate. So the next thing you're going to do is once you've cut your square here, you're going to cut on the lines so that you have a little triangle like this. And what you're going to do is take your ruler and cut from point to point. Now you need a ruler that is at least 14 inches long if you're working with a 10-inch square. Sorry guys, I'm a messy quilter. It's true at home, it's true here. You're going to go from point to point, and we're going to cut. Now if you had drawn your square already here and your points or cuts weren't totally accurate, then your triangle piece would no longer be totally accurate either. And so that's why you don't do that. So now we have a piece of fabric cut like this. And what we're going to do is take this template and you're going to line it up with the point just on 2 of the pieces, because as you'll notice in the block, the template isn't, or the quilt has a piece of splash here and a piece of splash here, and then this piece like this at the end. So you're going to draw your lines, and Anita has actually already done this for us. So you can see here the white chalk line that's drawn that exactly fits with that green template. Now let's go back to the main camera and I'll tell you a little bit about this. Hello. One of the things Anita taught me that kind of blew my mind when she first told me about it was the importance of freezer paper and what a great tool it can be in your sewing space. And I thought, really, Anita, freezer paper? I mean, like, okay. But get this, freezer paper is something that you can stick your pieces to, and it's not a permanent stick. So when you're organizing blocks, especially if you have a lot of pieces or you want to lay out but you don't have a design wall present, or you don't want to be able to store them, like you can't store them all like that, but you don't want to lose pieces, Anita recommends just cutting like a 10-inch square of freezer paper And with the shiny side up, you lay your blocks down and just hit it with an iron. And just not too long, but what'll happen is that the pieces will actually stick to the freezer paper and allow you to transport it like that. And it works for, you know, just something simple like this with 4 blocks, but even if you have, or 4 pieces, but even if you have a lot of really tiny little pieces, you can use that technique, and it's remarkably helpful to not misplace quilted bits. So let's go back up close and we'll show you how easy this peels off. So we have here the piece of freezer paper, and you can kind of hear that little noise it makes as it comes off. And you can just line it up here because we're ready to work with it. The best part about this is that the freezer paper is still usable again. So you don't throw this away, but you can take it and replace and just re-iron. Just make sure that your iron doesn't touch the shiny side, otherwise you'll be a little sorry. All right, so the next piece that's super important, and that actually is the first step in the directions that I didn't do in that order, is to take your squares of fabric for the splash, which will be your accent color, and you're going to draw that point to point, and again, you're going to use your ruler to cut from point to point, following those lines. Okay. Now, you'll only need 2 pieces per block, and so for this, I'm going to set aside 2. I'm going to grab the new ones that don't have the line on them. Okay, so I have 2 for this block. Remember, I have these here, and I have these here. Now, these ones with the line, as you might imagine, you are going to line up this piece with the white line. And I know everyone's thinking, okay, now I know how to do this. Now I just sew directly, or 1/4 inch from that line, or from the bottom of my cut piece. But actually, what we're going to do, and let's go over to the main camera with our little bits here. We are going to line our 1/4 inch foot up with the drawn line, not with the blue. And what this does is it just means that if you accidentally cut your blue piece like a little bit off, as long as you are lining up with the marked line, you'll know you're going to get a true 1/4 inch straight line with your pieces. And also, because the fabric goes off the edge by about a 1/2 inch, you can use that little bit almost like a leader so that you don't have your machine coming unthreaded, and also it'll just get cut off when you trim, so it's great. Okay, so we're totally going to chain piece here. Okay. Now I know what you're all probably thinking, because I thought the same thing. Now you're thinking, great, now we cut this little bit off, right? No, that's not what you do next. Let's go up close and I'll show you. Okay, now you take these and you're going to just use an iron instead of finger pressing, but I didn't take you to the iron, I just did this. Okay. Use your fingers or an iron, press this point here. You have not squared this up yet. And so what you're looking at the back is your perfect triangle with excess of your accent color. And when I asked Anita this, I was like, but you can just square this up and then do this here, and you have nothing on the back, and just line up your ruler. And she was explaining that actually to get a perfect point, you need to keep it like this, then use your corner of your ruler, lining up with the background or the original color, which in this case, whoops, in this case is Kona Raisin, and then square that up. Okay. And now you don't see any of that excess, but you have this bit. And so you're just going to take this out, and now that you have that perfect point, you're going to go ahead and cut that excess off. But you know that this is exactly perfect, and there's none of that like kind of crazy alignment trying to figure that all out. All right, so next, now that and you repeat that for the other side, which Anita did for us because she's amazing. Okay, next we're going to take our pieces that have been trimmed already, and we're going to go to the sewing machine. So let's go to the sewing machine. All right, Now to get that cute little hourglass kind of block, you're going to make pairs. Well, you already have pairs, but you're going to make sure your pairs are going the same direction. So in this case, I'm going to put the solid on the bottom and the one with a little bit of color right on the top. And I'm going to sew them together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sew. Oh, my machine came unthreaded. We were doing so good with the machine not coming unthreaded on me. And then I said it. I was like, oh, well, I didn't even say it. I thought it. I thought, oh, we're not going to have any issues with our machine this time. It's just going to love me and be happy to see me because it's Friday. And the machine was like, hello. I want to say hi to everyone. And I'm going to do that whether you like it or not. I was like, all right. It's a nice machine. Just sometimes gets annoyed at me, I think. It's like, hey, you've spent more time at the cutting table than over here with me this episode. I wasn't okay with that.
So you might repeat the giveaway is about naming a color that you pick.
Okay, don't forget that if you want to win the Kona giveaway, which is 3 yards of splash and 2 half stacks, you just need to comment while this video is still live your the color that you would pair with Kona Splash. So I would definitely do that so that you don't miss the giveaway. The machine is over here saying, no, we're unthreaded, and I'm over here going, no, I think you're threaded, and just pressing the button. But I think maybe it's right, and it's telling me that it needs some help. Oh yeah, it needs some help. The tension just did something crazy to me. Hello. Let's try that again. Kyle has a question for me.
What color would you pair?
Kyle wants to know what color I would pair. That's a hard question. I think that if I had to pair anything with Kona Splash, okay, I wouldn't pick a Kona Color. I would pick a Picture This panel. I actually made a quilt using a tiger Picture This panel and gifted it to my friend Elizabeth Hartman. And I used Kona Splash to bind it, and just the oranges and the vibrant jungle colors in that panel really made it pop. So. Oh, what I was saying about pairs though, which I totally didn't do, but I did, I didn't think about it. You basically want to make sure that you're sewing the same seams with everything in the same direction, because otherwise they won't make that cute point. So now we're gonna go to the iron, and we're going to press these open the same way. So press the seams the same direction also. That will make it really easy for them to nest. And the great thing about fabric that you've starched is like that stuff presses so nice. It just listens to you and is like, all right, you want to iron? Okay, we're good. We're gonna stay this way. Like, look at how lovely that is. Just so lovely. Okay, next we're going to put these right sides together, and you can already see it's going to work. Right sides together, and for matching these, I like to start in the middle where I have a perfect point I want to make, and I'm gonna do the P word. I'm gonna pin. I don't do this often. I take it pretty seriously when I do, but for perfect points, you have to pin. Perfect points, pin. Pin perfect points. It's alliterative, it's right. Even if you don't like it, you just gotta do it. Okay. And I'm going to sew those together again using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to stop before I get to my pin and take the pin out so that I don't have a bent pin, because no one likes it when that happens. And now, so great, I'm going to press it. I like to press my center seams open, especially if I'm worried that too many seams are intersecting at once, where it might create a little bit of bulk, which would make it harder for quilting. But it's a personal preference. If you really hate pressing your seams open, you can always press them to the side. Okay, so now you have this block. And you're like, great, I made a block. I'm so happy. Actually, I read enough of the directions to read that Anita says to make sure that you make one block before you cut everything and make the whole thing, just to give you an understanding of what the heck you're doing before you commit to all of it. That way, if you make a cutting error, you don't make the cutting error for the entire quilt. Ask someone who makes frequent cutting errors. It's good to just do it on once first. Let's move up close and I'll show you how to square this up. Now, Anita suggests, smartly, wisely, that it would be really wonderful to use a 8.5-inch ruler to square this up, because then it would be easy to see the exact size of the finished block. But I didn't have an 8.5-inch ruler. I had a 9.5-inch ruler. So I always like to think about things like, okay, my finished block is going to be 8 inches, so the center of that is 4 inches. But with the 1/2-inch seam allowance, my center is going to be 4 1/4. So I like to look at 4 1/4, 4 1/4, and kind of set that as my center point. Now, normally, you would think to match the points with the corners of your seams to get a perfect block. But as you'll see here, you have a straight line in the center that you know is a perfect straight line. So what Anita says is to actually line your ruler up with those lines so that it looks perfect when you're finished. And it doesn't matter if these points aren't hitting correctly, because those are just solids and they're going to disappear. Are you guys talking to me? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so as you can see, I've just lined this up with the splash on this line here with the 4 1/4 centered, so I know that that's centered. And I'm going to do the first 2 cuts. And then, whoa, hello. Then I'm going to turn it, and now I can measure 8.5. If you have an 8.5-inch ruler, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to visualize this. And trim that up again. Woohoo! So what you end up with is this beautiful 8.5-inch square block. And in the pattern, you'll see that there are solid 8.5-inch squares that make a big plus. So let's go back to the main camera. So as you can see in this quilt, you have some squares that have an 8.5-inch square of solids in between them. And you also have some of these areas with a really big plus, which gives it that fun, modern feel and also makes it go so much faster because you don't have to piece another block for the middle. You just go whoosh with a solid piece of fabric. One of the things that you'll see in this pattern that's a little different from a typical pattern that we have on our site are the footnotes. And so at the bottom of each page are tips from Anita. And each one of these is going to walk you through something that Anita has specifically called out that's just a little bit of an additional hint for how you can do things. And a good, for instance, are these long pieces. Now, if you wanted to make your life a little more difficult, you could piece 3 8.5-inch squares. But if you wanted to do it Anita's way, which is the smart way, you could just cut one long piece of fabric to the size specified in Anita's tips and just piece that in. It's 2 less seams you have to sew. It looks super clean and great. And like, I mean, why wouldn't you? You have this like nice long piece, just do one piece. No need to cut a whole bunch. This quilt comes together so fast. It's so much fun. And look at how complicated it looks. You can make this gift quilt, or you can make this quilt as a gift, like, and whip it up in like a weekend. And then when they say, how long did this take you? You could be like, oh, ages. I worked so hard on it. You should take me out to a really nice dinner and like buy me wine as a thank you or something. So anyway, and no one needs to know that you had a great time making it and that it was super simple, because Anita's whole motto is to make it simpler. So this has been It's So Friday with Elizabeth Hardy and Anita Grossman Solomon in my ear. Now, I am just really excited about the Kona giveaway. So let's talk about who's going to win. Kyle is busy scrolling through the entries. You can't see it, but behind the scenes, she's over here on her phone like, it is a random. So she has to write everyone down, and then she scrolls through, and she's like, random number generator. And she's like, I mean, let me tell you about Kyle. Kyle knows about spreadsheets. She also knows about the importance of deadlines. And so Kyle will make a spreadsheet with all of the applicants, and she will set a deadline, like the end of this episode. If it didn't already have a deadline, she would make one for you. And then she would pick the winner. And she hasn't told me who the winner is yet, so I'm still talking about this. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about how amazing this pattern looks in print fabrics also. So Anita also is making a version of this quilt using Carolyn Friedlander fabrics. And this is actually a Carolyn Friedlander print from her collection Gleaned, which is a little bit older now, maybe a year old or so, but Anita's working from her stash. And she used Splash as the center. And you can really see how just substituting in a print really changes the look of the quilt. But a great thing to note about this block is that it maintains the directionality of your fabric. So if you're using a print that has a really clear directionality, just follow these steps and you will actually maintain all the directionality in your fabric. All right, are we ready for the giveaway winners?
We've got Terry Sargent Pert, maybe?
Terry Sargent Pert? You win.
And Elaine Wilson.
And Elaine Wilson. Congratulations, y'all. I don't think I've ever said y'all before, but I just tried. Now, we will DM you to get your personal information so we can send you this fabric. And before you leave us, I'm just really hoping you'll stick around because we have a special treat for you after this episode. Okay, we'll see you January 21st when we make the Atlantia box pouches. We're going to talk all about how to insert a zipper and do all kinds of fun things. So until next time, happy Friday. And if you make anything from our episodes, make sure you share it with hashtag It's So Friday Finish. All right, bye. Hello. Welcome to It's So Friday. I'm so excited, super excited, so excited. Ahead and cut out all the directions. Well, don't cut out the directions. I just don't want to do it wrong on camera. That would be embarrassing. Okay, and I'm doing something wrong. Oh, that's wrong. What the heck did I just do? Ha-ha! Woohoo! Tension is no laughing matters. Hey yo, what are you doing? Pin free's the way to be. Don't like to pin. I also don't like to have the thing not work on live camera though. That's kind of embarrassing.